The Schutzstaffel are Yhwach's personal royal guard. They consist of 4 powerful Quincies whose abilities border on the divine itself. They stood as the final test for the Shinigami during the end of the 1000-Year Blood War arc, and at the very peak of this elite squad sits 2 incredibly powerful individuals who seem to break the rules of combat entirely. In one corner we have Sternritter X, the X-Axis Lille Barro, the leader of the Schutzstaffel and the first Quincy to ever receive a Schrift from Yhwach himself. In the other corner we have Sternritter M the Miracle, Gerard Valkyrie, the literal heart of the Soul King. These two share something really important in common. They apparently are immortal and their abilities cannot be overcome through standard means. They served as Yhwach's ultimate defenders within Varveld. The Bleach community has endlessly debated about which of these 2 Quincies will stand above the other. In this video I'm going to settle the debate once and for all. By the end of this video you'll understand why one of these dominates the other and why this fight isn't even close. Let's begin by establishing the rules of the fight. This fight will take place on neutral ground where neither combatant has an advantage because of the terrain. It's a pure 1 versus 1 confrontation with no outside interference, as they'll be testing each of their Quincy abilities to their limits. Both Lille and Gerard will enter at their respective peaks from the 1000-Year Blood War arc. Lille wields his spirit weapon Diagram alongside his Volstandig Jiliel. Gerard enters with his blade Hoffnung and access to his Volstandig and the second Volstandig form. The win conditions for the fight are straightforward, it's death or complete incapacitation. So let's go over each of the characters, beginning with Lille Barro, who holds a critical position within the Vandenreich hierarchy. He is the leader of the Schutzstaffel and he was given the letter X, the X-axis. According to Kubo's notes at the end of volume 73, the visual motifs of the Schutzstaffel members are based upon different eras of war. Lille represents modern warfare. This is reflected in his spirit weapon Diagram, which resembles a sniper rifle. Beyond his rank, Lille holds a distinction that no other Quincy can claim. He was the very first Quincy upon whom Yhwach bestowed a Schrift. This makes Lille, in his own words, Yhwach's greatest creation and the man closest to God among all the Quincy. His unwavering devotion to Yhwach defines his entire character. He views himself as a divine messenger, an angel of judgment that has been tasked with punishing the sinners who oppose his Lord. The feats that Lille demonstrates throughout the 1000-Year Blood War arc establish him as one of the most formidable opponents that any Shinigami could face. During the initial invasion of the Soul King's palace, Lille pierced through the defenses of not 1 but 2 Squad Zero members at the same time. His X-axis shot penetrated the Zanbakuto of both Kiryu Hikifune and Tenjiro Kirinji before striking Uetsu Nimaya with a fatal blow. This feat alone is staggering when you consider that the toughness of a Zanbakuto blade is determined by the spiritual pressure of its wielder. Squad Zero members possess Reiatsu far exceeding typical captain class Shinigami, yet the X-axis ignored their defenses entirely. When Lille fought against Shunsui, the captain commander of the Gotei 13, Lille pushed him to his absolute limits. Shunsui himself complimented Lille's speed, noting that he was the first opponent to properly dodge his shadow-based Kage Oni technique on the first attempt. This feat places Lille's base speed above even Resurrection Kyoto Stark, who possessed one of the fastest Sonidos among the Espada. Lille forced Shunsui to reveal his Bankai for the first time in the entire series, even after having his head detonated by the 4th and final act of Shunsui's Bankai. Lille regenerated and evolved into an even more powerful form. The X-axis operates through a mechanism that defies conventional combat logic. Lille's spirit weapon fires no bullets, instead it uniformly penetrates anything and everything that exists between the muzzle and the target. This means that his attacks don't have any projectile to intercept, there's no trajectory to predict, and no defense that can block them. Mass density, distance, Reiatsu, none of these factors even matter. When Lille pulls the trigger, whatever he aims at is simply going to get pierced. When Lille opens both eyes, he accesses the true power of his Schrift. His entire body becomes intangible. Physical attacks pass through him harmlessly. Zanbakuto are unable to cut him, and Kido cannot harm him. Not even Captain Class Shinigami can land a single blow against him. In his Volstandig Jiliel, this intangibility becomes permanent, and he gains the additional ability to fire X-axis shots from every hole in his 8 wings at the same time. His Light of God transformation grants him devastating devastating area of effect capabilities via Trumpet, a massive trumpet attack capable of erasing entire city sections. He's also able to manipulate his body at will, reform after destruction, and create light constructs of immense power. His immortality in this state stems from his divine nature. As long as his halo remains intact, he will continue to resurrect from any damage. In the other corner, we have Gerard Valkyrie. Unlike his comrades who received their abilities from Yhwach, Gerard possessed his power, the miracle, from the very beginning. Like I mentioned, he is the literal heart of the Soul King, a wielder of a key fraction of the divine being who maintains the balance of all three realms. Following Kubo's era of warfare motif for the Schutzstaffel, Gerard represents medieval warfare, which of course is reflected in his Nordic warrior aesthetic. With his winged helmet, massive sword and shield, Yhwach bestowed the designation M, the miracle, upon Gerard as recognition of the power he already possessed rather than a gift of new abilities. Gerard's personality matches his divine origins. He radiates supreme confidence, demanding that multiple captain class opponents attack him at the same time because none would stand a chance in one-to-one combat. His presence in the story positions him as the final defender of Varveld, the last Schutzstaffel member before one can reach Yhwach's private chambers. Everyone who reached the inner sanctum had to pass through Gerard first. The feats that Gerard accumulates throughout his battle against the Gotei 13 speak for themselves. He eliminated the entire group of Vizards, including Hiyori, Love, Lisa, and Hachi, in a single devastating strike despite their combined holo-enhanced attacks. He fought at the same time against Kinpachi, Hitsugaya, and Byakuya, three of the strongest captains in the Gotei 13, and he was winning. Gerard was able to somehow survive Kinpachi's Bankai, which allowed him to transform and cut the Sternritter in half. Gerard simply regenerated larger and more powerful than before. Hitsugaya's mature Bankai froze Gerard completely and it negated his physical enhancements, but Gerard broke free and evolved further. Byakuya unleashed Senkei and pierced Gerard with countless blades, but Gerard absorbed all of that damage and transcended into a second Volstandig form, a state so powerful that Hitsugaya stated that his previous forms couldn't hold a candle to it. The miracle operates by converting any damage that Gerard sustains into increased size and power. So injuries and death feeds his ability. The power functions as reality warping tied to the concept of miracles themselves, allowing Gerard to achieve victories that should be impossible. Gerard's sword Hoffnung embodies an additional aspect of the miracle. It represents the hopes of the people, and any damage dealt to the blade itself reflects directly back onto the attacker. Kinpachi learned this the hard way when his attacks against Hoffnung caused massive wounds to spontaneously appear across his body. On Kubo's official fan club, Club Outside, he revealed that Gerard possesses a critical weakness, the Quincy cross that appeared after Kinpachi cut him in half. This serves as the core of his entire being. If that core were to be destroyed, then Gerard would permanently die regardless of the miracle's regenerative properties. Kubo specifically stated that Kinpachi didn't possess the type of power necessary to destroy this core. This raises a major question: what kind of power actually could defeat this Quincy cross core? Both Lille and Gerard possess abilities that operate outside of the normal boundaries of Bleach. Lille's X-axis is the purest form of durability negation in the series. His shots don't need to be stronger than his opponent's defenses, because they simply ignore defense altogether. Gerard's miracle represents the ultimate reactive power, converting any disadvantage into an advantage and any damage into strength. The fundamental question then becomes whether if Gerard's constant evolution is able to outpace Lille's absolute piercing capability. Gerard grows stronger with each wound, but Lille's attacks don't merely wound, they erase whatever exists between 2 points in space. Gerard's regeneration converts damage into power, but what happens when the damage bypasses regeneration entirely by destroying the source? Lille's intangibility presents Gerard with an unsolvable problem. Gerard's combat style revolves around direct physical confrontation. He wields a massive sword, he throws powerful punches, and he attacks with overwhelming force. None of these methods are able to touch an intangible opponent. The damage damage reflection of Hoffnung becomes worthless when the opponent never needs to strike the blade in the first place. Gerard cannot force Lille into a sword clash because Lille fights exclusively at range. Gerard possesses superior Reiatsu reserves and raw spiritual pressure. His physical strength in his enhanced forms exceeds anything Lille demonstrates. However, Bleach has consistently shown that Reiatsu differences alone don't negate abilities that operate through conceptual mechanics. Shunsui's Bankai still affected Lille despite the massive spiritual pressure gap between them. The X-axis still pierced Squad Zero despite their superior Reiatsu. These abilities function through rules that transcend simple power measurements. When looking at direct physical combat statistics, Gerard holds commanding advantages. His strength in his god size and Volstandic forms allowed him to overwhelm 3 of the strongest captains at the same time. He was able to clash blades with Bankai Kinpachi and force him to overexert himself. His size grants him tremendous reach and devastating area coverage with each swing of Hoffnung. Lille demonstrates respectable physical capabilities, but nothing on Gerard's level. His spirit weapon grants him extreme precision, and his Volstandic provides him flight and enhanced mobility, but he was never designed for close quarters combat. His fighting style emphasizes maintaining distance and using X-axis to eliminate targets before they can close the gap. When comparing their speed, things appear to be at equal footing when it comes to their base states. Both operated at comparable levels against their respective opponents during the Varavelt battles. Gerard kept pace with multiple captain-class Shinigami attacking from different angles. Lille tracked and eliminated targets across vast distances while fighting Shunsui's unpredictable game-based combat. In terms of technique, it heavily favors Gerard in direct combat situations. He demonstrates skilled swordsmanship with Hoffnung and tactical awareness in positioning multiple opponents. Lille's technical proficiency lies entirely in marksmanship rather than blade work. However, this comparison becomes irrelevant when Lille never needs to engage in melee combat in the first place. This brings us to intelligence and strategy. Lille functions with cold precision born from absolute faith in his superiority. He analyzes opponents methodically, with him identifying their limits and applying exactly enough force to eliminate them. His battle against Shunsui demonstrated adaptive thinking as he countered each of Shunsui's games and recognized the patterns in his Bankai's effects. He maintains composure under pressure and he commits fully to tactical decisions once they have been made. Gerard fights with overwhelming confidence that borders on arrogance. He announces his intentions loudly, challenges multiple opponents at the same time, and reveals information about his abilities freely. However, his apparent recklessness masks genuine combat awareness. He correctly identified that attacking Hoffnung would harm his opponents. He understood how to leverage his growing size and power against multiple coordinated opponents. The critical strategic difference lies in their approaches to immortality. Lille expects to be untouchable and responds with confusion when opponents are able to bypass his intangibility. Gerard expects to take damage and embraces it as fuel for his resurrection. Lille's strategy assumes that he will never be hit. Gerard's strategy accounts for being hit repeatedly and using that damage to grow stronger. In this specific matchup, Lille's strategic advantage becomes overwhelming. Gerard's entire combat philosophy revolves around taking damage and converting it into raw power. This works against opponents who need to hurt him physically, but against an intangible sniper who can eliminate targets from any distance without ever engaging in melee combat, Gerard's strategy has no path to victory. Consider how both fighters handled their respective fights in the manga. Shunsui, despite being one of the most tactically brilliant captains in the Gotei 13, he barely survived against Lille through a combination of his Bankai's reality warping effects and Nanao's inherited Zanpakuto, which conveniently has the power to counter divine power specifically. Gerard faced 3 elite captains at the same time and was winning until Yhwach's Ashvalan absorbed him. The opponents they overcame demonstrate comparable threat levels, but the methods differ massively. Lille methodically dismantles opponents through precision and patience. He isn't the type to rush, nor does he overcommit. He just waits for the perfect shot and eliminates opponents efficiently. Gerard overwhelms through escalating pressure, forcing opponents into increasingly desperate situations that fuel his power further. further. When looking at durability and stamina, Gerard's durability operates via the miracle rather than standard resistance. He doesn't need to be durable in the traditional sense because all damage feeds his power. His stamina effectively increases throughout combat as each attack against him provides more energy for his resurrection. Extended battles favor Gerard massively, especially against typical opponents. Lille's durability is his intangible state which approaches infinity against physical attacks. Nothing can touch him and his stamina depends on maintaining his full standing, but the x-axis shows no sign of resource depletion throughout his extended battle against Squad Zero and later Shunsui. Kubo's reveal about Gerard's core changes this equation massively. Gerard does possess a conventional weakness despite the miracle's apparent invincibility. His Quincy cross needs to be destroyed to kill him permanently. The core withstood Kinpachi's Bankai, proving that it has exceptional durability, but Kubo specifically stated that Kinpachi lacked the type of power to destroy it. The x-axis is a different type of power than Kinpachi's cutting ability. Kinpachi's power, no matter how overwhelming it is, still operates through physical cutting force. The x-axis ignores durability entirely. If Kinpachi's cutting power couldn't destroy Gerard's core, the question becomes whether if the x-axis durability negation could actually accomplish what raw cutting force could not. The evidence suggests that it could. When Lille pierced through the combined Zanpakuto of two Squad Zero members, he demonstrated that the x-axis operates outside of normal power interactions. Those Zanpakuto should have been impenetrable, especially given their wielder's astronomical Reiatsu. The x-axis penetrated them anyway because it doesn't engage with durability in the conventional sense. Kubo's statement about Kinpachi lacking the type of power to destroy Gerard's core implies that a different type of power could succeed. Lille possesses exactly that different type of power, I think. Some fans do reference question 475 from Club Outside, and they interpret it as meaning only transcendent beings like Yhwach could destroy Gerard's core. This seems very restrictive given Kubo's specific wording. Kubo said Kinpachi didn't have the type of power needed, not that only godlike beings could accomplish this task of destroying the core. The x-axis operates through entirely different mechanics than Gerard's cutting ability while remaining accessible to a non-transcendent being. This brings us to their ultimate abilities. Lille's Light of God grants him city-destroying offensive capability through Trumpet alongside enhanced regeneration, light manipulation, and the ability to disperse into multiple bird-like forms if he is severely damaged. This transformation represents the extreme expression of his divine messenger role, transforming him into a literal angel of destruction. Then you have Gerard's second full-standing form that represents his ultimate state, a being that's become so powerful that his previous forms seem insignificant by comparison. In this form, his strength, speed, and regeneration reach their peak. He becomes the absolute expression of the miracle's concept. There's an imbalance when you see a clash between both of these ultimate forms. Gerard, in his second full-standing form, possesses raw combat stats that dwarf Lille's. His physical output could devastate entire battlefields. However, none of that power matters against an opponent who cannot be touched physically. Lille's Trumpet could potentially eliminate Gerard's body regardless of its enhanced durability, but Gerard will simply resurrect larger from the core. The question remains whether if Trumpet's area of effect destruction could locate and destroy Gerard's core, considering that an attack from Kinpachi's Bankai was unable to accomplish this feat. Some fans have argued that Gerard's miracle would eventually allow him to overcome Lille's intangibility, since achieving the impossible is exactly what miracles accomplish. The counter-argument suggests that the miracle functions through converting disadvantage into advantage, damage into power, so it's not technically granting arbitrary reality warping. Gerard still needs to inflict damage to trigger the escalation cycle, and he cannot damage an intangible opponent. Is there any X-Factor or wildcard in this matchup? While all of it comes from Kubo's answer on Club Outside, Gerard's Quincy Cross serves as the true source of his power and the only method of killing him permanently. This information transforms this matchup entirely. Lille is the leader of the Schutzstaffel. He fights alongside Gerard as a part of Yhwach's elite guard. The likelihood that Lille knows about Gerard's core is significant. Lille possesses analytical intelligence and a methodical approach to combat. He would absolutely exploit any known weaknesses if he is aware of them. The fundamental nature of the X-axis as a durability negating ability ability makes it suited to destroying Gerard's core. Gerard's Hoffnung could potentially reflect damage back onto Lille if he struck the blade, but Lille never needs to engage with Hoffnung. He fights at range. His attacks don't physically contact his opponents in the traditional sense. A lot of fan discussions about this matchup highlight how one-sided the ability interaction becomes once you account for all of the factors. Gerard excels at converting physical combat into escalating power. Lille removes physical combat from the equation. Some people have even stated that Lille's X-axis doesn't fire conventional reishi bullets once the Schrift activates fully. The blue visible projectiles that are visible during his restricted state are given way to pure spatial penetration. Everything between the muzzle and the target simply is erased. This matters enormously when considering whether if the X-axis could destroy Gerard's core. The question isn't about if Lille can overpower the core's durability through superior force. The question is whether if spatial deletion interacts with durability at all. Gerard would literally need a miracle to survive Lille's attacks, and creating miracles is precisely what the miracle does. But miracles in Gerard's ability function through probability manipulation and damage conversion, not through arbitrary reality warping, which I've mentioned a couple of times already. He can't simply declare that surviving is impossible and therefore is guaranteed to win. The mechanics require specific triggers that Lille's intangibility deny Gerard. So let's reach a final verdict. When it comes to physical combat, it goes to Gerard. In terms of ability comparison, it favors Lille decisively. Intelligence and strategy edge towards Lille. When it comes to durability and stamina, the existence of Gerard's destroyable core provides Lille with a win condition that Gerard lacks against him. Ultimate abilities favor Gerard in raw output, but they do favor Lille in practical application. Gerard's second Volstandig represents overwhelming power, but that power is unable to reach an intangible target. Lille's trumpet is able to affect wide areas and potentially locate Gerard's core. The weakness of Gerard's core combined with Lille's durability negating power provides Lille with a clear path to permanent victory that Gerard is unable to replicate. I did run a community poll on the channel for this particular fight. We had over 12,000 votes and 56% of you thought that Lille would win and only 44% of you thought that Gerard would win. Now I do agree with the majority here. In a straight close quarters fight, Gerard would crush Lille, but the issue is Lille would never let a fight come to that point. The fight would likely unfold with Gerard attempting to close the distance while Lille maintains range and fires X-axis shots. Early hits may trigger Gerard's resurrection and growth, but each resurrection simply makes him a larger target. Eventually, Lille's precise marksmanship would locate Gerard's core. One X-axis shot at that core would bypass all durability through its fundamental nature, and Gerard would die permanently. So yeah, under most scenarios, Lille is going to win this matchup. But I do want to know all of your thoughts. Is there anything about either of the characters that I've forgotten to mention within this video? Could Hoffnung's damage reflection somehow apply against X-axis attacks? Where do you stand on the debate between Hack's abilities and raw power when it comes to Bleach matchups? Do let me know all of your thoughts by continuing the discussion in the comments. And lastly, thanks for making it to the end of this one, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.
A massive thank you goes out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for helping to make this video possible. If you also want to support the channel and see your name in the end of my videos, then check out my Patreon, which has loads of perks like early video access and so much more. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.